Hey guys, Ricky Carmichael here. Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk 447. Well, it's another week and my man Jeff Emig is too busy to give the shout out credits to our great sponsors that make this possible. We have the best partners in the business and we appreciate everything they do. We got a banger of an episode for you guys this week, but let's get to it. We got to thank Rocky Mountain ATVMC.com, the online leader for off-road parts, apparel, and accessories. Slick Products, for all your off-road washing needs, visit slickproducts.com. ODI, if you're looking for a new pair of handlebars or grips, go to odigrips.com. Perhaps you could get a pair of Emig Pro V2 lock-on grips. That's what I run. My man Jeff Emig's lucky enough to have me running his grip. I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm lucky that he is my sponsor. And while you're at it, pick up an RC Signature handlebar. We put a lot of time into that, and I feel it'll make you a faster, safer rider. And last but not least, Fox Racing. Go check out foxracing.com. Their online shop is up and running. Thanks for all of your support, and we hope you enjoy this week's episode.
Said if you can't win, wreck someone who can.
Exactly.
And I knew I wasn't winning that.
Why do people not get out of the fast lane?
Every time I see that picture of you riding around with that big ass fro you're wearing, I still get pissed.
It was that night I said preparate, but I didn't say what I wasn't supposed to say, and that's A1.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Real Talk 447. I'm Jeff Emig. This time I'm down in Balboa Island, Newport Beach. Ricky Carmichael. As always, you're at the Tallahassee Taj Mahal. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. You got it made. I'm doing something wrong, clearly.
It is a beautiful day here in California. But this is all about our guest that we have here today. We're so excited to have on one of the most successful, one of the most genuine friends, sports agents in the industry, in multiple industries, just has an outstanding track record in action sports and beyond. So, Steve Astephen, welcome to Real Talk 447.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited.
How you doing?
Long-time listener, first-time caller. I'm pretty excited.
Right. So I see you got the Familie V2 on your shirt.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just start so your background is marketing, advertising, sports agent. I think that there's a lot of things that we could throw, under that umbrella. But let's just start the show with where did this career that you have built, where did it begin?
It started in 1998. Actually, I was working in the industry for a brand, and I came from more like the snowboard industry. Grew up playing football and mainstream sports, but at a young age, was lucky enough to have a grandmother that sent me on a Greyhound bus to Vail to be a ski bum, and then learned how to snowboard and fell in love with the industry. So there was Reebok was coming in. The quick story: Reebok was coming into the sport. They started box footwear. I mean, maybe
box. Yeah, I was a box rider.
You're a box rider. There you go. And Tom Shine, who now is the president, he actually is a good buddy. I've stayed in touch, and he tells the story way better than me. But Kevin Jones was one of their pro athletes, and he was on Lamar Snowboards at the time, old legend. And he came in my office in San Diego at Lamar. I was head of marketing there. And he's like, this box thing, Steve, I know we're all excited about it, but you're not going to believe the phone call I got. I go, what? He goes, well, Reebok said it's not working. It's not their deal. It's called box. And the industry didn't accept it. So they just called us up and fired us. I'm like, I mean, they fired you. And he had left a really authentic, as you guys know better than anybody in the industry. He was with a core snowboard boot brand. And he left to go do this thing because it was a great paycheck, first of all, a very big one. And it was the first mainstream crossover. So Sal Masakale, I think, was running the team. This guy, Nick Adcock, all these guys were involved. And I'm like, well, that seems strange. And it was actually kind of Kevin's idea. He's like, you should call him up and pretend you're my agent. It was right around that Jerry Maguire time. And he still watches the movie, laughs about it. But so I literally made it. That's how, destiny. I made a call, randomly said I represent Kevin Jones, which I didn't, and said I need to speak to somebody. And long story short, I don't know what your guys' case was, but Palmer, everybody on the snow side that was involved actually walked away. And I got Kevin 9 months severance. And that was kind of the start of the Family version 1. Literally, Kevin's like, should start representing me. So yeah, it was a short time after that. It was probably about a year later, maybe even longer actually. I was just getting, anxious to what I was going to do next. Did some consulting for sunglass brands, was doing some different stuff. And then kind of snowboarders were starting to blow up with the X Games. I mean, there was even, if we remember, there was like snowboarding in summer X Games, like in San Fran and San Diego.
Oh yeah.
Where I started to meet other athletes. That's where I first met Carey Hart, Dave Mira, Ryan Nyquist, et cetera, et cetera. And so I started in snow, and then it just it snowballed. I mean, to be honest, it was the craziest ride ever. And I'm happy to say that I've learned a lot. That's for sure. Blessed to have the guys that I had very early on and let me make some mistakes, but we've had a really good fun ride.
It's really amazing. You and I have had this conversation a couple times, Steve, and I think it's really part of our success and where we both are today is we came from nothing. I mean, your family, you were on food stamps when you were a young kid, could barely afford lunches when you're going to school. And dude, you came from nothing. And like you said, you took a Greyhound bus to Vail, and here you are now. You created the family, as you said, sold to Wasserman, then was at Wasserman for a while. Now you got Family V2. And dude, I mean, for the people listening, I mean, you've got an incredible depth of talent that you've represented, from Ryan Sheckler, Travis Pastrana, Ken Block. I mean, basically all of the guys in moto, top guys, like you said, Carey Hart, Mira, all the boys. And it's incredible. It really has. I mean, do you ever just sit back and reflect and look back on what you've been able to build? I mean, that's the American dream, to build a company and then sell off like you've done, but you're still out grinding every day.
Yeah. I mean, I love what I do. I think that's part of the way it was. I don't know. Part of this whole process has been a lot of self-work. I've done a lot of things that I regret and learn from. And I think if I learn from them, I can keep growing, whether it be personal, business, et cetera. And I think this whole time for me, like this self-work area has been like that reflection of, look where I came from, look what I did. And really it's been the people I've surrounded myself with. I had Mira and I back in the days, Ricky had these tattoos when our egos were way bigger with self-made. I actually put no longer now on it, above it. But that was a few years ago when I did that. And mainly the reason is that like, it truly is like the people that I was blessed to be around, and the people that allowed me to help them in their career, or the staff or the employees or the partners that I had, and the people that guided me. But yeah, I literally not only reflect, just, I guess as you get older, you really realize the road you came on, but also the accomplishments and the people that have helped you get there, and how much you owe them for that. And so, I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, and it's been an amazing ride. I got another 10 in me, I think. That's the rumor on the streets is I got 10 in me.
Well, go ahead.
Sorry, Ricky, go ahead.
No, go ahead, buddy.
So who was your first athlete in the two-wheel space?
Travis.
Carey?
Oh, no.
Travis
I thought you meant like racing. In freestyle, it was...
on two wheels, yeah.
Yeah, on two wheels, it was Carey and then Sink Mars. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Carey for sure. Mainly because Carey crossed over so much, like back in the day. So Jim Rippey was friends with him, and I represented Jim. And that's how I first, that was that whole scene. Like, they kind of crossed over. Even Carey, versus Deegan and some of the other guys, Carey was always at Gravity or any of the early on Vans Triple Crowns. Everybody loved Carey Hart, right? Like we all do still today. So it's like Mira, they just hung out. So I really didn't get to meet Travis till he was 16 at the Bay Jump is kind of where I became involved with his career. But Carey was that kind of first, Nyquist to Mira, Nyquist introduced me to Mira to XYZ, Bob, Bucky, just kind of snowballed.
Oh, So Travis jumps into the Bay in San Francisco, and you're like, "That's my guy. That's who I want to represent."
I showed up in the office. I literally chased down his parents into the office where he's getting fined to see if I could help him get a lesser fine. And if I figured if I did that, maybe they'd call me back. But that story, I mean, Debbie and Robert to this day is part of what we all go through with, where parents are involved, as you guys had that. Debbie one time called me the devil's child on a phone call in like 1999, I think.
The devil's child.
Yeah, the devil's child. But
Wait, well, hold
hey,
on. Don't. What is
and
that
Robert
mean?
called me to
Is that
apologize.
a good thing? Is that a term of endearment or?
No, it was not. No, I think like
Okay.
back in the day, like if you think about it, and this is very different now, but like I was really lucky, like Mark McCormick in IMG, he found a white space in tennis and golf, built an empire in all sports, but like my niche was action sports. There were no agents when I did this. Maybe in two-wheel like you guys, but it was rare like marketing agents, like a big agency.
Oh, yeah.
So I was the only one. So like good or bad, I was going to get, it was like, well, it's better than nothing, this guy. Like Mira was always like, well, it's better than not having anything, I guess. But like, with Travis, I really had to fight to build the trust in the family. And, Robert was always a little bit more, but he used to be like, yeah, Steve, I got a shovel in my office for you when this all fails. Like he keeps like, even today, he's like, you need that shovel yet? It's like, no, Robert, I'm doing pretty good. All right. I'm all right now, but you never know.
Well, and tell me if it's a little bit different in the other sports, but I feel like that the important thing within the motocross, supercross space is that you capture that athlete, which now is younger and younger, but at such a young age, let's say 14, 15, 16, 18, to become their career agent, where in the other board sports and action sports, I almost feel like they're grown a little more. I mean, maybe like Sheckler wouldn't have been, but are they a little more mature, and maybe you're dealing more with the athlete than having to deal with the family and the athlete in Supercross?
I think it was probably 3 years at least before I even met Dave's dad and mom.
Mira.
In motocross, it's almost like we're recruiting the parents first, right? Especially nowadays too, with all the competition. So, it's a really good point. The market's changed. And like I said, I am blessed to have Gretchen Sheckler probably and Debbie, because I think a lot of people know them no matter what, as far as parents. Debbie's by far the best reference. I will tell you right now, I have signed clients because of Debbie and Gretchen, because I think if the parents call Debbie and they've heard the stories, and then she went from the devil's child. So I do need to owe an apology here to, she's been very nice to me over the years in sense of like even texts out of nowhere or a call saying like, what you did for my son and everything, like, I really appreciate it. And if you ever need anything, and again, I haven't never asked, but it's just been amazing that she's been a reference for families to me. And I'm like, call Debbie. And they're like, are you sure? I've heard stories. I'm like, all I can do, she can say what she wants to say. I don't pay her. So, she can give you the ins and outs. And she always gives honest opinions. Timing isn't always what I agree with her, but I have to allow her to do that. But she's been a really big part of my life for that, and other parents too. But to your point, and with the exception of Sheckler, most of the athletes in the other sports, in action sports anyway, I really didn't have a lot of interaction with the parents. They mostly, let them kind of do their thing. It's not as expensive for cost of entry. Funny enough, when I went over into basketball and other stuff, parents actually are a very big part of it, like motocross, which is kind of crazy.
So you leave Wasserman, you start the Family V2 again, start your own deal. I feel like you're with a more select group of athletes. What is the strategy behind what you're doing now with the Family? And, what are the goals and your vision? Like, what's the plan behind it all? Why are you where you at right now?
I mean, I think the transactional agent business is just a broken model, Rick, across sports. I added music too, and artists. So the goal of this company is that, like, for me, it was a wide open, like, eye opener. Even like Travis Scott's Nike deal, believe it or not, it's as big as some Nike, like some basketball deals. So for me today, it's like an athlete, a musician, an artist, if marketed right, kind of on this 360 plan I have, they actually can be collaborated together and build things together in this day and age with like brand opportunities, starting brands with direct to consumer, that sort of stuff. But also it's far and few between. It's a very elite group that can do that, and the associations that you can build. And my thought is the transactional business. And again, I've been lucky. This whole virus is definitely showing that, because most athletes aren't getting paid. If you're an IMG, a CAA, a Wasserman, nothing against them. I mean, those are the leaders in the clubhouse. But I wouldn't want to have 26 offices right now and 1,100 employees and 1,500 athletes not getting paid. It's a tough business again. Sports is shut. It is. But I'm pretty well diversified. I'm a startup again, so I got lucky there. But the goal is basically, very less is more. very elite service, 360 from representation, management, marketing, social, digital. We don't do financial, I believe, church and state. In that sense, there is a lot of people that do that and they do it well. I like to surround myself with better people in that case and act as the chief of staff. So I'm kind of the go-to, or my team would be the go-to to make sure that we're the check and balance across all. And I think my whole thing is as competitors come in, I was not always the smartest one, but you weren't going to outwork me. And I'm trying to distill that in my team now. And I can do that in a smaller group. I think I'll have more success. Long-term, I'd like to have maybe about 100 employees instead of a giant, but that's still a big company. I've built my NBA team now and golf and diversifying in other sports. I signed my first music client. That's been really a great ride. And we're looking at a very nice little acquisition in the music space right now with someone I really respect that also was big and went small and kind of thinks outside the box. So
one thing that's always amazed me about you is the time away that you spend from your kids, and I know how important your children are to you, and I respect, your hustle, because unfortunately the price that comes with that is being away, but you're still out there, you're still getting it, and it's been great for you, and you still have a great relationship with your kiddos, and they can see your hustle, and I think that goes a long way. And that leads me to the next thing. Like I've always wondered this, and I've wanted to get your insight on this. What's that line from, okay, you have these athletes, let's just say motocross, for instance, let's just talk that.
Sure.
You have the top athletes in the sport pretty much. And you also have good relationships with some of these companies. Your fiduciary obligation is to look after your client and get the best deal for them. But you also know, and you have these relationships with the companies and the people inside the companies. So what is that line like, knowing if you're going to broker a deal with the brand and you're getting everything you can out of them for your athlete, but in the back of your mind, hey, I got my next athlete coming through here where I'm gonna have to talk to this team, this brand again, and see what I can get with them for my other athlete. What's that line of, basically, for lack of better words, not pissing them off and giving them a sour taste? And how do you find that line, dude?
No, I mean, it's a balance. I always walked away this time, especially. It's crazy. I struggled with that in the early years, Rick, because Sally, there's been times where I've literally been at a dinner table with 15 people and someone's talking shit about me. The guy's never met me in my life. And Sal, literally, this is a true story. Sal's like, hey, Astephen passed the ketchup, and the guy's wife got so embarrassed she left. And that was an eye-opening for me to be like, you know what? You don't have to like whatever it is. I love what I do. Maybe overkill of how much I love. I really love these guys and girls and the people I've worked with. And I also love the brands in the industry across all. It's a little different in the NBA. It's a little different in golf. It's a little different in motocross. But sticking with motocross, I try to give a better value back. I mean, I think now that Pete's retired and Ken Block's a good example. I mean, Ken, I negotiated some big deals with him over the years. And when he decided to become a quote unquote athlete, he came to me. I must have been doing something right. When I was negotiating against him for Travis, for Mira, I had probably 15 in the old days of athletes with DC shoes.
Yeah.
I think I definitely have always tried to raise the bar and get creative. As some of you know, Roxon's got the only guaranteed contract in the industry, like baseball. That's where I learned that business and brought that into motocross. Is it going to happen?
Oh, I thought you learned that from me in my Suzuki deal.
Right. Guaranteed is a little different than you just had a big deal. When I mean guaranteed, I mean no ifs, ands, or buts about it. No termination. As I did those things, I think the brand saw a value that I brought back because I hopefully wasn't trying to be transactional in most cases where I did the deal and then walked away and said, I'll talk to you in a year. I try to interact and give value to the brands, bring them into other spaces with Honda, with, right now with Kenny or Breitling and what they're doing and the other sponsors, Art of Sport from other industries. Mm-hmm. Fox is seeing value in that. So hopefully we've already done that. But at the end of the day, you're right. My main concern is making sure these guys, like you guys, are able to have a life and have a career and hopefully someday retire from that and raise a family. So it's not always a bed of roses. I know that. But I like to think they respect me. I mean, there's no shocker. Roger DeCosta's never been like, hey, Steve, you want to go get a beer? But I can tell you, like, right to your face that when he's called me for stuff. Let's just say that, for a favor or for advice, or I'd like to think they have a Coogan account because of me at KTM and some other stuff. But like, I like to help the brands too. I mean, through this process, I'm just mind blown that there isn't a league, a union. I mean, all kinds of things that I've been talking to brands blatantly about it, Honda, Cowie, and everything, going, what are you guys doing? You have no say. You just sit on a call and say, okay, sounds good. We'll be there. Like, so I've been really also trying to lend my time and my expertise that I've been blessed to learn from other places to really try and work with brands. And then in a time like this also, like with Fox's and other brands like that, just trying to get creative and making sure the athletes are doing stuff at home. So hopefully that pays off.
Yeah, because not all of it is just the athlete. It's the whole entire package of going, okay, the athlete is there to advertise the market and build the brand. And if you do that, then the next contract can grow, and it can, grow exponentially, like Ricky said, for your next athlete that's coming through. But I believe you've been a part of launching some companies and some brands also, in coordination with your athletes.
Yeah, so that's actually another company I launched with Candy Harris, who is somebody I really respect in the industry. She's been in the industry for over 30 years. She was one of your first employee partners at the First Family. I think that's how we met back a long time back in the days. Yeah, and her husband Enoch and I go way back. We used to do the rental car thing together, going to events. So she was one of my first employees and first partners way back in the family. She went on to do other great stuff in the industry, ran Billabong for a lot of years. And then Stance, she was probably employee 5, a partner in Stance, CMO, Chief Creative Officer. And then, about June of last year, July, I met with her as a mentor and some other stuff. And I just said to her, like, look, I've had this idea, like, as I've been incubating these brands, I don't want it to be part of the family. I'm going to start a brand incubator where athletes, musicians, and artists and entrepreneurs have a place to find really well strategic operators in different fields and launch brands. Because I saw too many times in this industry, especially like Malcolm McCaskey with Ethica, what a great concept, but and he knows I would say this to him, lack of operator, lack of strategic understanding. Like an entrepreneur by pure heart, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't surround myself with smarter people and be the dumbest one in the room. There's a lot of creative people that go out and try to launch these brands. Like I told you earlier where I'm good. I know when I'm no longer the CEO of the family. You're going to, hopefully you guys will be around too and be like, oh, Steve hired a boss. There is a number. I have a number in my head. I didn't finish high school. When Wasserman's an example. I'm not capable of operating something like that anymore. It's just not I'm an entrepreneur, visionary. I got to move. But a certain company, to run a company that's 300 million, 400 million, 500 million, it's a different type of CEO and not maybe necessarily something I want to be part of. So I'm trying to incubate that with this idea. I brought Candy along. She had a great concept. And I just said, Candy, rather than putting yourself in a box with one brand, why don't you take your expertise and let's build several brands together for people. So we launched a brand lab, an incubator called Unlisted Brand Lab. So equity trade. And so I was involved with obviously Stance very early on as an investor. Hoonigan Media Machine with Ken. We launched and incubated that. Wasserman. Kapari, it's another brand. And then Artist Sport was my big one. That was something I truly created inside with Kobe and Harden and Roxon and Scheckler and Juju and Have. And it was great for me because we didn't represent all those athletes. So I was able to show that I could come outside to other agents and say, you're not doing this, but I'm doing this. Like, I don't want to be a transactional agent. I want to build brands. So the Artist Sport thing has been a really nice ride for us as well.
Hey, remember that conversation we had at the Oakley football lens, helmet lens launch in the city? And you told me same thing you just told our listeners. I'm like, dude, let me get in on it. Shex was there too, listening. And I'm like, yeah, you're like, yeah, dude, no problem. So if I see another company that you create and you at least don't call me, and I'm willing to give you money, dude. I know you love taking money. I know you do. I know you do. If I find another company that you start, you're like, dude, let me get a piece. I mean, I know thing about that people probably don't understand, Steve. Like, I think we're great buddies. We can see each other, have a good time, have cocktails, and enjoy ourselves outside of racing and business. We've always been on the opposite ends of the table. Throughout my racing career, you were always representing, like everybody knows, Travis Pastrana, of course, Chad Reed. And, the rivalry between Reedy and I was heavy and heated. And, dude, I hated seeing you in the pit area. And then, of course, when Carrie and I got together at RCH, you were representing Ken at the time, and how all that deal went down. And it's cool that even though we've been on the opposite side, you and I have this respect and we're buddies. But I'm telling you, I am going to be fired up if I don't get a call on something I can get a piece on.
I owe you. It's coming, but I promise.
Everybody, okay, it's on the record, bro. Hey, bro, is that your new boat? Is that your new boat? They're pulling in.
Finally.
Yeah.
So,
but I want to bring up that point where I first learned about Ricky Carmichael, because huge respect for you, by the way. And as you know, and I actually was just talking to Travis about this yesterday, because we're using a Mira thing for something Travis is doing with mental health. But it's the first time I knew you and we had seen each other, but the real time was the boot camp you did with Dave.
Uh-huh.
And every night him calling me. And that's where I really learned about the dedication that you had for the sport and how you changed the sport with with the training side and everything. Because he'd call me and he'd be like, this motherfucker's got me eating grapes, Steve. That's all I'm eating is grapes. I'm like, excuse the French, but I had a whole new respect for you. And then, yeah, definitely in the pits. I think for a long time when I came into the pits, with Sebastian and Reedy and different guys like Travis, it was only usually one round a year. So I wasn't there that much. But when those guys started, it was always I was fearful of you. You were a different breed, that's for sure. And I think a lot of the people in the industry, I always say my favorite Ricky was when you were so competitive. But the best Ricky was after it. If Ricky could have been the Ricky he is now as racing and win as many championships, he'd be Michael Jordan. We'd be watching you every Sunday, bro.
I know, it's funny. He's like, dude, he's so angry. I'm like, well, I just wanted to win, but it's like, dude, I love hanging out, having a good time, and giving shit to everybody. It's a good time, right, Fro? I mean, mostly you're the brunt of it, but.
Hey, so yeah, he gives me a hard time, but one of my favorite things about Ricky there is he when he wants to chill and have a good time, maybe a Coors Light, maybe a little Tito's or something, turn on a little music. Dude, this guy can chill harder than anyone.
Anyone.
So yeah, so we have a good time. So I can't wait to have that next time. Hey, Steve. So we've talked a lot about athlete stuff and what you do with athlete and brand building and marketing and advertising and social media, all that stuff. I mean, it's got to be crazy compared to what it was in '98. Have you done much team sponsorship?
Yeah, I mean, I played with it a little bit. Geico back in the day, we did. We had a little run with them where we brought Napster on and represented them with some Samsung deals, Butterfinger for the industry and the sport. There was a time that I was really heavy into selling sponsorship and team stuff. Whether it came through the team and we helped hopefully grow that deal, or that we just cold called and actually had a good result from it. So that's been a good ride. The reason I got out of it in this industry, to be totally honest, was as I learned about the value. T-Mobile was probably the big one for me. I brought them into the sport pretty heavily. Mira liked that deal. But they built the team. They were a title sponsor of the X Games. I mean, they were spending money all through action sports. Same with Nestle Butterfinger. By the way, that was back when Candy. So her role was consulting, right? We'd help the brands understand the industry and get a return on investment. But what I saw when T-Mobile started to get frustrated was fragmentation. They know when they go to the NBA what they get and what they don't get, but they're fine with that. They know when they buy a deal at the NBA, you get this, 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 and this. In action sports or motocross, it's all right, I got to do a team deal, but then I don't get anything with Feld unless, or at the time Clear Channel, whatever. Then I got to go cut a deal with them. And then if I want the rider, I got to go cut a deal with them. And if I want the team, I got to do this. So diversity is what I love, but fragmentation has not been easy. And so selling something in this industry from a time perspective for teams, it just got really, really hard. We had some great deals. I mean, I think I've helped, the Dodge thing in Ram, which Ricky was part of, we grew that and grew it. But ultimately, as Ricky knows, they left for a main reason of just that kind of the fragmentation of who owns what and how do you activate and that sort of stuff. And so ultimately the T-Mobile story, same thing. I mean, they were spending a lot of money back then and they just went back to the NBA. And to this day, they're still there. It's been like 15 years. They haven't left the NBA. So that's a tough.
As I asked the question, I went, shit, you know what? We did a deal.
Yeah, we did.
Or tried to do a deal.
Yeah.
I literally asked the question and then I was like, wait, didn't we do something in 99 or 2000? Or we tried to, at least.
And the Jack Pacific toy deal too.
Dude.
Oh yeah,
hey,
Jack Pacific.
Hart and I still talk about the Jack Pacific, dude. That was good. Dude, that was good times. I mean.
Do you know, Ricky, he's one of my mentors, Stephen Berman. I know you met him, but I just talked like 3 days ago, but he's still very successful. He's now on the board of Indiana Pacers. He was first in, Pinkberry and all that kind of stuff. Like he's been a very successful, but still CEO and chairman of Jack's. I still do stuff with him with Clay Thompson's foundation and Scheckler, and he's been a big supporter, but that's probably the longest standing corporate relationship I have. Like, it's just crazy just because he was such an amazing human being and treated us all so well and taught us that licensing business. I mean, he literally taught me that business.
Yeah. Hey, what would you say? And that leads me to my next question. What would you say are you most proud of? Like, is there a specific deal? And it might not even be an athlete deal. It might be selling the family or like, what is one thing that you're most proud of? If that's even
business wise?
Yeah. Yes.
Business. Most proud of, I try to say this as humbly as I possibly can, but I think starting what I started, because I think it changed and brought not only legitimacy, but like it raised the bar. There's been agents over the years that have called me after I've done a deal, they're competitors, that I respect. Mark Irwin at IMG, I think he's a great agent, and said like, hey, you don't have to tell me details because I know you won't, but I know you just did this deal with Bruce at Oakley, so I assume I should renegotiate Shaun White's deal. And it's kind of the wink, wink, it's like the elevation of the sport. I'm probably most proud in business of that, that I was first to the table and built a team, of course, and was more successful because of the people around me. But I know the deals that I did, with Mira, even Mira was kind of the man, right? And he kind of had a lawyer agent at the time. That's why I had Nyquist first, because Dave was like, and like, bringing his Slim Jim deal from like 60 grand to $500,000, he was kind of like, wait, who's this guy again? and then just the other stuff that I did with him, he was the first one on Ram, actually. He had a whole Dodge Ram helmet. Conagra Foods was good to him. Just the corporate deals, the T-Mobile deal was ridiculous with him. Elevating the industry, I think. I mean, yeah, again, maybe some say I'm to blame in a lot of that, but I think that was probably the thing I'm most proud of, because I really care about the athletes. And, you two are at the highest level. It's not easy to do what you guys do, not mentally, not physically, not emotionally, and everything like that. And I think if I'm able to help people like that, that's pretty rewarding.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I was going to go here. It's interesting that you branded your agency the Family, but you become so close with your athletes. You guys are the first ones there on the podium. You're the first ones there when somebody gets injured. You go to the hospital. So you truly become part of all these individual families. And I imagine the responsibility, the care. I mean, what's it like when an athlete has the big one, the big crash at X Games or Supercross, things like that? Like, let's say Ken Roxon in Anaheim a couple of years ago. What's that like being in your shoes, and what's the responsibility?
I mean, Roxon's one was one of the scariest, obvious, of all time, because obviously we got on that plane, and when we landed in Vail, them saying that we were an hour away from his arm getting cut off. But because I've never gone that far, probably in an injury where like something's going to get cut off, that type of stuff. But I tell you, Kerry and Travis prepared me for a lot of this. I mean, Kerry especially, the stuff I went through with him. I think when you had him on, he talked about, the worst thing ever, where he had a bad run there after that big crash, Tony, boom, boom. And he actually lived in Encinitas for a while. And between his girlfriend and I, we were basically taking care of him. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's also part of my insecurity, Fro. Like, I never came from anything. And as other agents came in, there's smart people in the industries, right? Like, I don't think you're ever going to outwork me. And then maybe the loyal to a fault thing has actually been an advantage of mine. You know, I've cried with these guys. I've lived with these guys. I've gone through suicide. I've gone through some crazy stuff. But I mean, they are family. And I think, you know, you have kids, you would go there for your children for the same thing. And for me, Kenny and Carrie and these guys, no matter what, over years, even Chad, and, you know, we're not working together anymore, but like, I've been on the phone with him and Ellie begging and crying over a certain subject, like literally as a man crying, going, please don't do that. They're family to me. It really is. I don't think I'd be as good as I'm blessed to be now, not only about the people around me, but, you know, maybe I'd be a little less stressed. Maybe I wouldn't have to make, you know, other decisions. Like there is some agents in the industry, even ones that used to work for me, that I'll be honest, I actually respect the hell out of them. I wish I could do it like they do. Right? Like they do a great job, but like they're not involved with the mortgage, all the other stressful things. It's kind of like, I got them a great deal. I'll be there for you at the race, but it's like, it's not as far. And the A to Z thing to me has been very important. So I don't know how to answer it where it's like how. I think it's just in my DNA for all, like it's part of it for me. I'm not an agent. I'm managing them. They're a part of my life. I'm responsible for their life. The parents call me from out of the country, you know, going, where's my son, you know, or where's my daughter? So I don't know. I don't know how to answer it, but like, yeah, those injuries they're tough. You live with them, you cry with them, you hurt with them for sure.
Yeah. Hey, so we're done playing softball. The underhand pitches are done.
I know, it's been like, you can ask me anything you want, especially in this day and age.
We want to grill you so bad about, oh man, because I know you can take it. I know you can take the 100-mile-an-hour fastball. So a lot of times you've taken the bullet for your athletes. People are like, that guy's an asshole. He's super critical about this or that. One thing that has been controversial is some of the guidance that you've given your athletes, like let's say with Ken, of going, hey, look, we've decided Ken's not going to ride motocross the nation. And so, yeah, you know, the whole motocross world wants him there. And or you're the guy that stands up there.
Hates me for it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Or I tell Kenny to wear a suit and everybody hates me for it.
Yeah, no, which I liked. It was great. But somewhere along the line, like these, as the agent and the guidance and all this sort of stuff, sometimes you get a bad rap for it. So now would be your chance to kind of explain, you know, a decision like that.
I mean, the donation, I think it's prioritizing and you know, to your point, like I'm okay with being the bad guy. Like I said, it used to really wear on me, but now like, as I get older and those people that maybe said those things or were like, this guy's an asshole, if they're calling me to help their children get into a college or an internship or something like that. And it was probably that dinner table conversation I told you about. Like, I don't let that stuff bother me anymore. It hurt for a long time, I'll be honest. And it's hurt still to this day. But like, I know what I'm doing with my clients. And I think, again, I'm blessed to, I want to say that, by the way, for 100%, there's been a lot of decisions I've made for my athletes and they listened and I was wrong. So there are times that the brand had the right to be pissed, or the team, whatever else. Like I've made the wrong decision. There's no doubt. I am not always right. I'm not trying to claim that. But over the years and having a good diversity, and frankly, even learning from Ricky, right? Like everybody gives me shit right now because I won't let Adam and Kenny race internationally. But I learned that from Ricky Carmichael, to be honest, and Villapoto. They never did that shit when they were racing for championships. Unless I'm wrong, Ricky, I don't remember any time.
Yeah, I mean,
you go all the time. You want to go to Australia and have that drink. And,
you
know.
Yeah, but okay, but I'll put my business hat on. Okay, say I sign one of your clients and we do a deal, and I'm expecting you to race Supercross, Motocross, and Motocross of Nations. I'm a global brand. I sell my product worldwide, and then you throw a curveball at me in June saying, you know what, our guys aren't racing MX of Nations. I'm like, okay, well, if you're not doing that, then that race was X amount of value to us, so we're gonna deduct your pay. Would you be okay with that? If you're okay to pull the rug out from under us?
If it was in the contract, I wouldn't have pulled it out. So I didn't get fined. So what am I worried about? So
I mean,
I think
you know
you're
what I'm saying.
Yes, actually, yes.
So you did the contract.
Look, Fox will give me this. I was one of the ones in Oakley too. I started putting fines in the contract against my athletes. I'm the one that said, okay, if he doesn't put it on, $5,000. If that's all that's going to work. I had certain clients like Bruce Irons. If you didn't fine him, he wasn't going to do it. As soon as he started to get fined, that fucking Oakley sticker was on there every time. So there are times that I do understand that. I think that's back to the respect that I get is like, I'm not one-sided. Kenny's decision also, and also I got a bad rap a lot of times, which this is my job. Ultimately, it was Chad's decision or Travis's decision or Kenny's decision as we talked about it. I'm just delivering that news because that is my job. The Kenny donations thing actually was heavily myself, his physical trainer, his consultant at Exos, Dr. Juve, like different people involved. And it was what the goals were after that injury and what we wanted to accomplish. Donations didn't fit. It was risk versus reward. And by the way, the team at that time agreed with it.
Yeah, I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying that particular scenario. I mean, I'm there's all kinds of deals like that. That's where it gets like slippery for me. I'm like, wait a minute. You had all intents and purposes. Yes, you got us. It wasn't in the contract, but good and damn well that you guys were planning on doing all of these events or having that sticker on the board or whatever. So come on, man. It's like, what do you do?
I just, like I said, those are the decisions that are not easy. They're hard. But I think most of the brands or teams, I would rather have someone on this with me because then I can call it. Because like, if you're going to say something like, me, I'm scrappy, Ricky. I'll say it to your face. If you got a problem, it's too bad.
Well,
I think we figured it out. Like, I think in most cases, whether it be a team or a brand or a league, by the way, because I've been involved, like whatever it is, and the decisions we make to not do something, yeah, there usually was a give back. I'm going through that right now. I think a lot of brands would be like, I was the first agent to call and say, hey, you guys need help? Kenny, on behalf, I'll be full disclosure. We called and said, before someone at Honda gets let go, please let us know. He doesn't have cash flow problems. And now's the time where we need to help people. And then there's brands that took the approach of trying to say, we have the right. Well, then you might want to rewrite your contract because that's not what you have. So it's like, yeah, there's going to be times that even though when I know struggling, fair is fair. And so I think it goes back to the thing for any agent or any brand or any parent doing this is try and do something that both parties walk away a little pissed off. Because if I leave the room and go, I just murdered them, that deal eventually is going to be a bad relationship. But if I walk out of the room and both parties feel like they got a fair deal, that's going to be a really strong relationship. And I've been going through this process again because I inherited Adam Sansarillo, about a year and a half ago. And that's been a rework process from Mitch to factory to that sort of stuff and what the obligations are, what the commitments are, and that sort of stuff. And
well,
trying to be fair.
But also, I mean, too, dude, you're coming in loaded. It's not like you have some scrub that you're representing also. And not to take away the job that you do a killer job. Let me be clear to all of our listeners and viewers. Steve is a hell of an agent. He does a fantastic job. But it's nice going in there having the best athlete, right?
Yeah. No, it for sure is. And when I don't have it, it's nice having the best athlete because normally my second tier did really well because of that. It's the collaboration of the family that we built or the athletes we built because obviously I have agents and managers that work for me over the years and even now that I represent, and I'm still heavily involved helping them to mentor them, whether it be an amateur that we don't even charge commissions with. And that's my thing in motocross now is I've inherited too many problems. Kenny was a mess when I got him. Adam, I'm going to be straight up. Like from LLCs to corporate to all this stuff. I was super anti-amateur motocross. Like Bobby Nichols was chasing him around. Ricky, I know I didn't go to Loretta's. I don't think I still.
I know. No, that's not your jam.
But not because Scheckler was the same thing. Ryan Scheckler approached me. His parents were like, he's never wanted you. He's never even come and talked to you. He's all about Travis Pastrana. What Ryan figured out was I knew he wasn't ready because his parents were doing a great job.
Yeah.
And so like with some of the riders now and amateurs, we don't charge commission for that reason. We just don't charge. And by the way, amateurs can make real money. And the reason I'm doing that is so that they trust the guidance is authentic. It's not just about the deal in this industry. It's about structure. It's about surrounding yourself with smarter people, proper accounting, proper corporation filing, et cetera, et cetera. And so for me, you're right. I love the bullets I have in my gun going in are great. But as we develop amateurs that we don't know if they'll pop or not, I was talking to Nathan Ramsey yesterday as a favor. I don't even represent the kid, but someone in my company does. I was calling Nathan about like, hey, here's what I'm noticing, Nathan. Like, I know maybe the parents over here or over here or over there, but here's what I'm seeing from a parent perspective, that they're listening this early on and structuring things, that I think this kid could be, like maybe he's not going to be Ricky Carmichael, but he's going to be a really consistent, good head on his shoulder, good family environment, not going to have things hit the wall, because we're going to keep church and state separate. I'd like you to keep an eye on this kid. So this industry has to evolve like that, so that there isn't these fights that don't have to fight. Like, it makes me so sad. I don't have a relationship with my father and mother, and there's nothing I want more. For sure, the Debbie and Robert thing was an example where they have a great relationship with Travis. No business has been done there for maybe 20 years.
Right.
It makes me sad. Not even me, the stories that I hear in basketball or in motocross, especially, or baseball, that the son and the parent don't talk anymore, because it's not because of the reasons of mine. My dad, was not a good, beat me, like that kind of stuff. It's about like money, or it's about sponsorship, or it's about structure. And it's like, oh my God, why? Family is so important. So,
hey,
Hey, oh,
go. Hey, real quick, Supercross is starting back. I'm pretty excited about it. You excited about it? I know, Kenny's right there for the championship. But are you happy with the protocol and everything that's happening?
No,
not
at all.
Well, I mean, in a perfect world, what should happen in your mind?
I'm actually really excited we're going back racing, because I want Adam and Kenny and all of Chase, Sexton, everybody to kill it. And I want to be racing. I want to watch it, because I'm not going to, right? I'm going to be home. I want to watch it. But I don't think the right things were put in place. I still think the fact that it was announced yesterday, but we don't really know what's going on. Where do we stay? Where are we going? When I say we, the industry, and being involved in other industries right now, and being on other phone calls, and then the Feld phone calls. Look, I got a ton of respect for the Feld family. I've actually worked for them directly, to your point. I made those commercials with Fowler and all them a couple of years ago, where I was trying to grow the sport outside and bring people from inside. I've done some consulting for them. I love that there is somebody growing the sport and still, pushing the sport. But at the end of the day, the fact that teams don't really have a say and the riders don't have a say, and it's a dictatorship, I'm already seeing things about the temperature thing. By the way, the temperature thing does not mean you have coronavirus. I have friends, including your friend Blair Marlin, who got corona. He was tested positive. He didn't have a you can have a cough, you can have other things. So we could let somebody in because they have a 98%, 98-degree temperature, and they're carrying the virus, and then they're all going to get sick anyway. Mm-hmm. There's so many things that have to go into this, and I'm all for coming back, but let's understand safety. Let's understand protocol. Let's understand, how are the teams going to survive from this? What are the riders? At least give them a say. I'd be okay with it if every rider was on the same page right now, or majority, and every team was on the same page, but they're not, because I talked to them.
Yeah, well, that's never going to happen, dude. That's never going to happen in Supercross.
It is if somebody steps up.
You know that. No.
Somebody steps in and puts it in.
No, it's not, dude. It's not.
NBA, players.
It's not
players
like that.
Say yes or no. Players get a vote.
I agree. It's never going to happen in moto. I wish it would, but it's not. You know that better than anybody, dude. You know that's not going to happen.
I've tried. Well, you know what? Here's what I think, Ricky. In times like this, there's a silver lining. I'm on offense.
Okay, well, here you go.
As a business.
But let me tell you something. Stop right there. Yes, I understand your side. Can everyone unite? Absolutely. But, dude, you say everyone needs to get together, but then I see other people's posts, riders, they're ready to get it on. And then some aren't. So you're saying everyone needs to come together, but they're not. So don't like why you're saying let's be like NBA, let's be like Major League. It can't happen. Well, it can. I'm sorry. It can.
Thank you.
But we're not to that. We're not there. Our people, like, there's so much stuff, as you know, that has to change. Like, dude,
well, what's it gonna take for the industry to have that collective, cohesiveness where, because it's so different. We don't, Supercross riders don't have contracts with the NBA and are designated to that team or whatever, right? I imagine that's how it works, Steve.
Sorry, one more time. Yeah, NBA. The player, just like Supercross, is contracted.
Yeah, but it goes back to that fragmentation that you talked about earlier in business.
Yeah, so I think to Ricky's point, I used to think it would never, ever happen, Ricky, because I've talked to Roger, I've talked to Eric back in the day, Keith McCarty, whatever, who I respect, all those guys tremendously. But I think there is a new genre coming. By the way, at the factory level, I think new bosses are being put in place that when I talk to them.
That's where it needs to start. It's got to start there.
Yeah, the teams. Oh, it has to start at the teams. And I think there's new lawyers coming into corporations that are younger. They're in their 30s. And they're going, wait. What do we have? Wait, we have a deal with the AMA. What? How does this work? And then the amount of money, right? We have, what I was going to say about coronavirus is and I say this with the utmost respect. I'm the oldest of 7, and trust me, there's not a lot of brothers and sisters in my group that are working right now because they're bar workers. My sister works Salvation Army. Like, this is traditional where we were raised. So I know people are suffering. But I'll tell you, there's a silver lining out of this thing too for certain things, right? Like for my business, what a great time to have a startup. I don't have the overhead of my competitors. I don't have these other things. I could be nimble. And for Supercross, motocross, I pray that the silver lining out of this is, even if we go back in racing, maybe it doesn't go perfect, maybe these sort of things. And what happens is there is structure put to this industry, because maybe Feld won't have the series anymore. Maybe someone new will come along and say, because the sport is so big, trust me, I looked at acquiring this. It is a big sport. You guys are the real deal. And at some point, there's going to be an ownership change. That's a fact. Or a leadership change among teams, among the series. And then there's going to be riders like Ken Roxon. There just is. That has been mentored maybe by me. That is truly believes in these things and then does the research on his own to learn about other sports and say, like right now today, he's like, or the no autograph signing thing. Right? Funny how he was the first, but then everybody within 24 hours wasn't doing it anyway, right? Because he didn't want to get sick. And no other athletes were doing that. And so there is going to be change. Is it going to happen overnight? No. But for this sport to continue to grow, 2 classes in one night, like there's all kinds of stuff. We could talk for 10 hours about the issues with the industry. But I am very excited to come back racing. Look, my guy, and Adam, by the way, can come back. He's had more rest from an injury than ever. And he had a wonderful rookie season. We did a 1-year deal to prove to this industry he is mature. He's not the old Adam, and he's got his head on his shoulder. And look what happened. We came out of this with some great results, and I think he's going to be very successful in this kind of format. Okay?
Yeah, he has. I think, like with the union, everybody getting together, I think that in the long run, riders 10, 20 years from now are the riders that are really going to benefit from this. I mean, I mean, myself, Fro, Chad, guys like Meyer, we're not benefiting from anything, but the riders 10, 20 years from now, like if Ken was to sacrifice something, Adam was to sacrifice something, it's those guys, kind of like what Dean Palmer told us, Jeff, like it's the guys 20 years down the road that are really should be thankful for putting this together.
Kenny, he knows it because I used this example you just did, Ricky. I said if Wyndham, Ricky, and Reed back in the day when there was rumblings had done it, it wouldn't have done shit for them. It would have done something for you. So I want to let you know right now, Kenny, is if we put this in place and there's collective art, all this sort of stuff, and you be the guy you keep being because you know he's the most vocal with everything, it ain't going to do nothing for you probably. You might see the remnants of it at the end of your career, maybe a little bit of licensing or maybe some stuff, but it won't affect. And it has to start with the teams. The teams still think if they get together, it's collusion. It's only collusion if I'm negotiating with Yamaha, maybe this happened, and they call Suzuki and say, Steve wants this money. That's collusion, and trust me, I'm going to send you a letter. It's not a collusion if you have representatives from a team that sit in there and then a vote from the team. And if Roger, I'm going to say if it's Roger, Keith, Brandon, and Honda, or whatever, majority rules. And if there's one guy, because of his beliefs and his old school belief is motocross still, we got to race motocross or we got to go do this, but he's only one vote. But it can't be because his vote is the strongest and most respected now. It can't. It just can't be because we're scared of that person.
Yeah. Hey, so when we had Dean Palmer on, who played for the MLB, he talked a lot about what the sacrifices and the struggles that those players made 30, 40, 50 years ago to allow the players to make the kind of money that they do now.
Have the benefits that they do.
So let's use Ken as the example, right? He's made great money. He's had an uber successful career. There's guaranteed a lot more success in the future. If he was on this podcast right now, I would challenge him to think outside of himself and think in a bigger picture. What if you get 20, 30 years down the line and you and a group of athletes that were racing in 2020 were able to create a legacy that is so much greater than your own success as a racer, money in the bank, championships and trophies on the wall. That, like, to me, I think back of 20 years ago, if I had been part of a group that was able to execute things like that, how I would feel about it now, I would be really, really proud of it. So I know we tried some things back in the 90s. I know Jeff Stanton was involved in some stuff, Dave Stevenson, and we just could never get it off the ground. So hopefully for our industry, sometime soon, that change can happen and be the catalyst for that type of progress that we need for. And it's not just the riders, it's the teams and everybody.
It sure is. And like the teams, I want to give an example where it's not all about the riders. So I said yesterday, you guys have heard there's possible the prize purse is going to be cut, right? Let me get something clear. Ken Roxon didn't give a shit about Feld's prize purse because his team prize purse is the one we care about. So there's an example. If you took the top 10 guys and the teams went to Feld and said, look, this is going to be more expensive for us. We got to go to Utah. There's a risk. There's a liability risk if we get somebody sick and all these sort of stuff. Feld, instead of cutting the prize purse, this could be a time first and forever is that prize purses at the race, if you're in the top 10, because you get race bonuses from the team anyway, are going to go to the teams. Because these teams are going to struggle to keep funding these things, especially coming out of this economy, if we don't help the industry grow. And it's little things when you have these opportunities. It's not a threat, guys. I said to Kenny a couple years ago when he was having a problem, or it was a year ago, you can't show up a month before Anaheim won and go to Feld and go, if you don't change these things, or as a team, we're not going to race, because that's a threat. What you can do is do it 9 months prior to Anaheim and sit down and say, can we have a business discussion of where the sport's going? We have a team representative here. We have an athlete representative here. We have for the league, whatever. And we have a commissioner of the Supercross league, whatever. And what we want to do is accomplish things so that there isn't a strike, which, by the way, has been in the NBA, the NFL, they've all, because they didn't agree. But they tried. And this is this opportunity for the teams, and why I've been, as Ricky knows could change, why I've been calling every team, anybody that I have an association with, just yelling, going, how are you sitting on these calls doing this? It's your time to say, okay, we'll do that, owner, organizer. Everybody gave me shit this year because I didn't join the Feld merch. As you guys know, Kenny and Adam are not. They do it on their own, okay? They get 80%. Adam is not going to sell like Kenny, but I can tell you he tripled with the best year he would have ever had in 1 year. But I learned this, like even in music or whatever else, how can it that the same person is the promoter, owns the TV rights, owns the on-floor rights, owns the merch? There's just no church and state. And they control everything. I just want some flexibility. And by the way, by some of the things that we're asking, I'm willing to bet the teams would push harder, have more things to do, the riders would do more, and then together the sport grows. But without, and again, the biggest thing it starts with, and I'm good enough to know this, I told you I have a 10-year run. Look, I am hiring, with the exception of your boy Beak, very young. My NBA guy is 30 years old, young entrepreneur. My golf guy's 30 years old. I'm mentoring now. I'm old as shit. I'm not relevant anymore as I was, right? Well, Keith McCarty's probably one of my faves, right? Like that's another guy like you, I can have a beer with. He'll talk shit about me, but 30 years doing the same fucking job. Bruce, I love Bruce, but he still thinks CBD is illegal. Like I'll say this to his face, like this is not. We have to evolve. It's not the old school mentality of racing anymore, guys. If you want to grow the sport, we got to get leadership to understand that. And I am a huge fan of those guys and what they've done to the sport. Like Bruce knows shit about this sport that I never even dreamed of knowing. He's forgot more shit than I know. And by the way, not a better place for Adam to be with a guy like that who needs a little, Adam needs that structure. He needs an Eli as a teammate, yin and yang. Trust me, Dan, Bruce, I'm a fan of them. But just like they talk shit about me, I ain't talking shit. It's just a reality. You have to bring people in that are ready to evolve and not just go, we've been doing it this way for 30 years. Let's just keep doing it this way. If I ran the family right now, like I've ran Wasserman or ran my first family, guys, I'd be out of business. It's changing. Transactional agent business is dead. I don't care what anybody says. Zion Williamson pays zero commission for his league deal. If you ask an athlete or even anybody, Klay Thompson's dad 10 years ago, 15 years ago, he would be like, he's doing what? How does he not have an The world's changing. Zion's going there. You prove it to me off the court, and then I'll consider paying you that guaranteed deal that my landscaper can tell me how much I'm going to make when I get my max deal. Same thing
Hey, on a scale, Steve, I can see you're so passionate. We're so stoked to have you on the show. We're going to wrap it up. But on a scale of 1 to 10, where were you getting right there? Was that like a 3, or were you getting into like a 6 or a 7? Because I could
get into a 6 or a 7.
Huh? I was about a 6 right then.
Yeah. You know what? You know what the crazy thing is? When I did Pulp, he can't fire me up because when you look at him and the way he does interview, like I love Steve. So it was like a lot softer, although the podcast went like 2.5 hours. And the craziest thing is I walk in the pits now and I'm as popular as Ricky Carmichael, for God's sakes. I haven't met these people. But with you two, because you're so passionate about it also, like you guys are going to get me fired up and I'm going to get all pissed off. And now Bruce is texting me going, I know what CBD is. Like, I do want to say though, for what you two, because you were very different. Fro, I partied with you in Vegas when you won the US Open. And Bruce and I actually were talking about you the other day, specifically kind of trying to balance this Adam personality and the different riders he's had. So again, I respect a lot of people for this learning for me that can help me. But, for me, I know, Ricky, you definitely and Fro want this industry to grow. I believe in this industry. I go to the NBA, the football, all these things, and I talk about this sport. They're the greatest athletes in the world. I put Ricky in his prime, you in your prime, the greatest athletes. When I did that ESPN thing with Kenny, was because ESPN told me they're not athletes. I said, bring it on. MMA, baseball, bring them up to Santa Barbara. The guy puked. And supposedly this was the guy, right? Bring me Conor McGregor. I'm going to play golf today with Canelo. There's your name drop, right? I like watching his training. Roxon would destroy him in the gym. And overall fitness, gym, the whole combination. You guys are the greatest athletes in the world, but we don't have anybody pushing that.
Yeah, Kenny's insane. He's an insane athlete.
Yeah. Well, Steve, we appreciate you being on Real Talk here. Love your passion and your insights. It's always great to talk with you because whether we're at the dinner table or we're, recording the show like this, you always bring it. Love the fact that you care for your athletes like you have, and certainly a big part of their success and growing the industries and the sports that they're in. Ricky, you got a final word?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to what I talked about at the top of the show, Steve. I really respect the hell out of what you've been able to build. It's the American dream to build a company and sell it off and then restart. And, I respect that. You spend a lot of time away from your family, but it's for the greater the good. And I think that your kids will respect you for that and probably already do. And, your hard work is paying off. And I just, although we've always been on the opposite side of the fence, there's a mutual respect there. And I'd like to say good job to you, my man.
I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me coming from both of you. So I appreciate you guys having me. I know you're going to have Roxon on here soon and Adam too. So Can't wait. They won't get as fired up as me, but hopefully you give them not so, some non-softballs also. So,
Okay, so we got it on record. He said soon. Now,
yeah, no. I just thought
what
come
soon
up.
is?
Bro,
What soon is? I don't know. But he said they're coming on. All right.
I've dealt with the guy that books Howard Stern. I've dealt with the guy that books Joe Rogan, whatever. This guy, Austin Hoover, I don't know if you know him, but he will not leave me alone in the booking. I mean, you got one of the best.
Hey, that's mine and Fro's fault because we're grinding Hoover every day. Dude, get this guy. Get this guy. So
he's a new producer.
Kenny and Adam. Kenny, I think we're confirming even next week. I heard from Cassie. She says it's a lock. And then Adam after
Can't
that.
wait.
I hope
all
you
right,
guys
thanks,
get it.
Steve.
I hope to come back one day soon with like Roger DeCosta or Bruce or somebody on this thing with me. So
yeah, let's do that. We'll talk about CBD.
I would love to do that.
Right.
Thank you guys.
Right.
I really
Hey,
appreciate
thanks
it.
for your time, Steve. Yeah, man, it's been fantastic. Man, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode of Real Talk 447 with Steve Aston, Rick Carmichael, myself. We're going to take you away, as always, with our buddy, the Andrew McKeague Band, and This Old Life. See you next time.
Thank you, guys.